Hey, welcome everybody to the round table with Brian Zimmerman and Sarah Blessing. This is episode 2, and we are talking about Brian's college years, which he just went over a summary, and it's fascinating. I cannot wait to hear more. I just want to shout out and thank Brian for doing this with us. It is now the most popular show on Project Next. So thank you.
You're welcome.
You being open and honest and vulnerable with your intense life, I think is going to help a lot of people. And the fact that it is the most watched show on Project Next helps show we do need this type of stuff. It's really helpful that you look so manly, that you are like such a manly man, and you're so vulnerable in your life and sharing with us, because that's the way you can be mentally fit and live a happy life. And I think that can show a lot of people how to do that, especially in like Southern Indiana, which is a pretty masculine oriented place. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just want to, before we dive into his college years, please subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. I think you can just look up Project Next, but our whole handle is one word, Project Next Movement. Please subscribe on there. We're now doing so well, we're getting ads on our shows, but we don't get any profit from those ads until we get 1,000 subscribers. So thank you if you are subscribing. And if you are subscribing, please send it to a friend and ask them to subscribe as well. Let's see. We also have a bunch of different types of shows. So if you're watching just this one, you can go to our YouTube channel and you can go to playlists and see all of our different shows. My husband has a cooking show. I do a mental fitness show. Tim does a Dr. Tim show. Corinne does plots and politics. There's all kinds of great stuff for you if you're looking for more, because we're doing this about once a week. So yeah.
Right.
Okay, so thank you. And if you're on Facebook, you can share this. So or Instagram, you can share this, and just thank you for the support.
Thank you.
You've met a lot of new people around here,
I
right? In
have. I
Corden.
have. Yeah.
Has it meant a
Yeah.
lot to you? Have you liked it?
Uh, it. I wasn't prepared for it, I guess, but having people who have viewed the show come up and say, "Hey, I watched your show, and wow, that's really cool." And it's like, wow, well, okay, yeah, that is kind of cool. Yeah. So but thank you very much for those of you that have come up.
I know you messaged me and you're
Yeah.
like, strangers are coming up to me on the
Yeah.
street saying they
Yeah.
saw the show.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. We did have over 5,600 views just on Facebook alone.
Yeah.
So, and that's a lot of local people. So I'm happy for you.
It's
I mean,
great.
it's going to be an adjustment though, right?
Yeah, I'm
It's,
kind of a reclusive. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a change. Yeah.
I'm just really proud of you and thankful that you're doing this with us. Okay, let's jump into it. So, if you missed the episode we did 2 weeks ago about Brian's childhood, just go back and find it. It's on Facebook or YouTube. He talked about the abuse he had, and the family adopting him, the Zimmerman family, and you really opened up on the wrong type of love.
Mm.
I think I really liked the way you said that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're being loved the right way by a wonderful family, but you don't really understand that love is unconditional. I don't
Right.
think. You still
Right.
think you need to do certain things, you need to
Right.
perform a certain way
Mm-hmm.
to get that love, and you can't mess up, and you better be perfect, and you better keep all of your insecurities and thoughts to yourself and just be the
Yeah.
best version of you. Is that right?
Yeah. Just internalizing most everything, and just I guess just really thinking that accomplishment equals love. So that yeah, it did kind of fall into that conditional kind of thinking, I guess is the right way to put it.
I think a
So
lot
yeah.
of people grow up with that, whether they mean to or not. They think if they do good, they get loved. If they do bad, they don't get loved. And so I really like how you kind of summed that up, because we need to make sure as parents, we're both parents, that
Yeah.
we love our kids unconditionally, and they know
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to perform a certain way to get our love. Like
Right.
even if we don't
Right.
mean to do that, we might accidentally. Like
Mm-hmm.
we really need to make sure they
Yeah.
understand, like I've told my almost 15-year-old, it doesn't matter what you mess up, I will always love you. You can come and
Right.
tell me. I'm not going to yell at you, we're going to work on, fixing it and
Right.
improving, and, because we learn
Right.
from our mistakes. So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, take us in. You're really good at track and field in high school, right?
Yes. So, I ended up, I guess, my junior year of high school. I never really anticipated going to college. Uh, so when the recruitment letters started coming in, I thought, wow, this is really neat. This could really happen. And the only problem is, up to that point, I guess that was my senior year. I had not taken the prerequisite classes in order to get into a Big Ten university. So it was at that point in time, student athlete still meant something. So you had to be a student before you were an athlete. We weren't getting paid millions of dollars just yet. Uh, so I had to go back and I had to take classes, which ultimately led me to Bakersfield, California, where there's a junior college out there. Yeah, so I sold my car, packed a suitcase, hopped on a Greyhound bus. I had $40 in my pocket. My dad gave me everything in his wallet. I think I had maybe $10. And he asked me, "Hey, you good to go?" And I was like, "Oh, I got $10."
That just really shows me how
Yeah,
you kept everything inside, because you didn't even tell your family that loved you
it's
that
like,
you were like, I have no money. I'm just
no,
going. You just
yeah,
kept it in.
yeah, yeah. So that was, Bakersfield, California. There was the track coach out there had been an assistant coach to the head coach at Indiana University years back, and so called out there. Uh, it's like, hey, I'm going to send one of my guys out there to you for a year, and I want him back in a year. So make sure that happens. And it was great. It was a really difficult time to go from small town Indiana to Bakersfield, California.
Yeah.
Getting on a Greyhound bus, uh, going across the country over 3 days, not knowing where I was going to stay just yet, how I was going to make money. I had $2,200 in my bank account to pay for classes and things like that. But I just knew, I knew that that's where I needed to go in order to get to where I wanted to go. So it's crazy how, everything you want is on the other side of everything you really don't want to do. But that's just kind of the way it shakes out. It's just what you've got to do. So yeah, went out to Bakersfield, California, struggled a lot. Being away from home, not having a mode of transportation,
Wow.
learning the bus system, yeah, and just a different way of life out there. So learned a whole lot, struggled a whole lot, ended up making pretty good grades, and was able to transfer back to Indiana University
How long were you
that
there? A
next year. I
year?
was there for a year. I
You were
was there
there
for
for
an
a year
academic year. Yeah.
to
So,
get the right classes so
hmm
that you could go to
yeah,
IU.
yeah. I think I had to take an advanced math class, speech. I think I had to take, and a couple of those classes that you just kind of have to take. So
Did you figure out how to study there better?
I would say that I thought that I knew how to study. Uh, it academics really, it wasn't easy for me, but I worked hard, and I think I knew how to study. I thought that I knew how to study
You
until I
did
got
it
to
enough
Indiana.
to get to do
Yeah,
well
yeah,
with those classes.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I think that happens
So
to a lot of kids when they get out of high school. If their high school was easier, or they didn't take honors classes, and then they go to a
yeah,
college
oh
and the
yeah,
college is much harder. It's hard for
hmm
a lot of kids.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I would assume your story is not unique in
No,
that way with academics.
no,
Yeah, but
probably
the
not.
thing that shows to me is you made it so much harder on yourself because you didn't know how to be vulnerable. You didn't know how to ask for help. So
Yeah,
I would
that was
imagine, looking back, you're like, why didn't I just ask for
yeah,
help, or ask for help studying, or ask my teacher, how would I study
yeah.
for this? Or,
It was different. I remember specifically one time. The head coach that was out there, Bob Covey. Bob, if you're out there, thank you so much for everything you did for me. Uh, but I specifically remember having to call him and say, I don't have anything to eat but rice and maple syrup. That's what I've been eating for the last week. And it was fine. I had food. A lot of people didn't even have food, and so he helped get me a job and helped, the financial pieces for junior college as far as donators and things like that at the time. you know, those rules didn't apply to junior college. So they were able to have, he was able to find sponsors to help me out and, you know, throw the money my way that I needed really to just to survive, you know, and not to mention, of course, mom and dad, you know, they were helping me every way possible that they could. So I had a lot of people pulling for me, but for me to actually step outside and say, I I need help. That was a tough pill to swallow. It was really
I
difficult.
think there are a lot of people today listening that are at that same point. Like, we haven't been taught how to ask for help.
Hmm.
We think
Yeah, yeah,
asking for help is a weakness, but actually it's a strength.
absolutely. Yeah,
So, you realizing that now, you asking for help now as a 47-year-old, right,
yeah, yeah.
is a very big strength that not everybody gets to.
It really is. And being able to step outside your own pride and
Oh,
swallow
yeah.
that, you know, and say, hey, I need some help with this, you know, and you know, it could be, hey, I need some money to eat, you know, I'm this starving student athlete, or it could be, hey, can you help me with this math problem, or hey, can you show me how to drive? It could be anything, but people, myself included, are so stuck in this rut of, I can figure it out myself, and that is such a pride
I think
thing,
it's
you
more of
know.
a man thing too, maybe. Me, my own thing, I always have asked for help. So
Mm,
so I've been able to get, like, in college, I needed so much math help. I had to have
mm,
so many people help me with math. I do not like math.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so I wouldn't have been able to get through. I went to Bloomington one year and then IUS. I wouldn't have been
Hmm.
able to get through it if I hadn't asked for help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
I think men in particular, it is society. My opinions only. This is not, you know, uh, men are expected to be able to just suck it up and figure it out. That's what you're supposed to do. So it is. I believe it's more difficult for men to say, "Hey, can you show me how to do this?"
and
You
I
know.
don't want my sons to grow up like that. So I'm hoping that we are breaking that cycle.
Hmm.
Hopefully, everybody knows asking for help is actually brave and strong,
It's healthy.
and it's healthy.
Yeah.
And that's how we grow as a community, to be like, hey, I don't know how to do this, or I don't understand the thing you just said. Can you
Hmm.
explain it? It's
Yeah.
hard because
Hmm.
actually being vulnerable is strong. It's just hard to get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we at next? So
Yeah.
then you go to Bloomington?
So yeah, so I ended up. I actually was supposed to be staying out in Bakersfield for 2 years, but I did really well and was able to transfer back to Bloomington that following fall. Yeah, basically, you know, I got there, and this is one of my dad's favorite stories. Uh, but you know, when I got there, I had to sit down and do this interview thing and fill out this application. And yes, athletes do get different applications than everybody else. That's it, you know, let's just be honest. It is what it is. And yeah, I filled that thing out, and she's looking over it, and she's just like, you know, I just really don't know. So that survival mechanism of just being able to talk my way into
So
the
they were
cracks and
like, they're
crevices there.
sitting there trying to decide whether to let you in Bloomington or not,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
talked your way into it.
yeah,
You fought for yourself.
yeah. I mean,
I'm
it
glad you
was
did
tough,
that.
but that's where I wanted to be, and I made a convincing argument. Followed shortly thereafter that first semester of having a D plus average and going on academic probation. I proved that, hey, what do we do here? But yeah, so that first semester it wasn't because I didn't study. I actually studied really hard, but I think figuring out the process of, hey, you're accountable to be here and here and here and here and study for this and this and this. That was a lot. I had not been really exposed to that just yet, and not to mention that I struggled with academics. That was, and you know, the stress of being able to maintain that grade point average, you know, in order to be an athlete, something I didn't know, but Big Ten universities had the same academic requirements as Ivy League schools. So it was a struggle for me. I went to, you know, the training or the study tables, required study tables. I actually, the second semester, my freshman year at IU, joined a fraternity, and that helped my grades. I know this is going to sound crazy, but that actually helped my grades a
Did
lot.
did they help you with like organization and structure and going to classes and stuff like that?
They so the fraternity that I joined, Theta Chi, had required study tables for all of their pledges. So I had a required study table for 2 hours with them, and then I had a required study table with uh, the track team. So I was getting 4 hours of study, regardless of what I wanted to do. So it actually helped me out
So
quite a
that
bit.
structure is
That
what was helping
structure,
you.
of having that, and also to having guys that I could say, hey, did you have this class with this year? What are they talking about? It kind of helped out a little
I've
bit.
heard that sometimes fraternities and sororities can help you with classes because they've all been having
They've
the
all
same
been through those
classes, so they can
classes.
help.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's nice.
yeah,
I'm glad that you got that structure.
yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
so you start doing better. So the
Yeah,
first year is
yeah.
rough, or the first
The first
semester.
year was difficult. The first semester was really difficult. Uh, the second semester it was difficult. It required a lot of my time, but it got better. I started to figure out the system, what worked for me, how to best study and that whole thing. So yeah,
And then
yeah.
you were red. You call it red shirt year,
Yes,
where you couldn't
yes.
you
That was my
couldn't be
red
in
shirt
track and
year.
field for a year because you
I
came from another
transferred.
college, a
Yeah, I was a
transfer.
transfer.
Okay, yeah.
And so they required you had to sit out a season.
Did you
So
still practice?
no, no, not really. I think I went and watched the track team a couple
So you weren't
times.
really involved with them at
No,
all. You
not.
just were planning to the
Yeah,
next year.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
get put on probation.
So that first semester, after that first semester, I got put on academic probation, but I did really well the second semester, and it pulled my GPA up to where it had to be. So I just kind of rolled into,
I really have so
you
much
know,
respect for you. You didn't know how to be vulnerable and open up because of the things that happened in your childhood, because of what you were led to believe. I mean, you really wouldn't have thought otherwise,
yeah,
but you still fought for yourself and you still just kept at it. It's like your drive and your heart and your brain just kept working,
mm,
even though you didn't really know the things you needed to survive. You
yeah,
just kept fighting for them. And if
yeah,
not, you wouldn't have got to IU. You wouldn't
no,
have gotten out of probation. So you should
yeah,
be proud of
yeah,
yourself. I'm
yeah,
proud of just being your friend, of hearing how hard you worked and fought for yourself
yeah,
to where you were, because wait till you hear how he does in college, you all. So I mean, he's very open to telling us the first few years were really hard. Let's hear about you start doing better in school, right?
yeah, yeah. Started doing better, and I really want to place some emphasis on the people that I had supporting me. My dad, Coach Marshall Goss, Randy Heisler, Ed Bethia, uh, those guys, they supported me 110%. They saw something there, and they supported me. So, I just want to make sure that that's understood. I had a lot
So
of
that
people
helps. You had
surrounding
a
me.
lot of what good
Yeah,
teachers, a lot of good
yeah,
coaches, and you're
yeah.
learning from them. You're listening to what they're saying, right?
I'm building trust with them. I'm starting to build trust. So which led me on to being, more successful, I think. But yeah, going into my sophomore year there at Bloomington, I was small fish, big pond. No different than anybody else. You show up and yeah, you did really well in high school, and then you show up and it's like, oh, yeah, this is going to take a lot of work. And my coach Marshall Goss, uh, he one of the most influential people on me ever. Uh, he had a saying which went, "How good are you? How bad are you? And how good do you want to be?" And when I heard that, I really took that to heart, and it really made me analyze myself. Okay, where am I currently? I know where I was. Where am I right now, and where do I want to go? And that really helped me build a plan of that's what I need to do in order to make that happen. And so having that support and those coaches and my trainers was just incredible.
What were your goals at this point when you're like, you know, your I guess your
Yeah.
third year in college? What were your goals?
So honestly, I just having the opportunity to follow in my dad's footsteps. I mean, Kerry Zimmerman at Indiana University is, that's kind of like saying he's the Bob Knight of track and field. I mean, he is very well known. Everyone loves him. And so me just having the privilege to follow in his footsteps and try to attain even a sliver of what he attained, uh, that is what I really, that is what I really wanted to do. Yeah.
And Kerry was one of your coaches in high
In high
school,
school,
and you
head
learned to
coach. Yeah.
trust him, and
Hmm.
you opened up to him. And when he
Yeah.
found out what your home life was like, that's why he invited you into the family. And you guys
Yeah.
can hear more about
Yeah.
that in episode 1. But that's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. So you met because you both had a gift in the similar things,
Right.
but then you've made that your goal to impress this person that you love so much.
Hmm.
So your goal is just to do as best as you can to make him proud of you, not
Yeah.
realizing he 100% loves you no matter what you did
Regardless.
in life, whether
Yeah.
it was in track and field or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Regardless. So that was, yeah, yeah. Things were going really well academically, athletically. I had actually, things were starting to derail on the social side, I think. I had been dating a girl for about a year, and she ended up getting pregnant, and it was a real struggle for me because I I was, here I am, this 20-year-old kid, and I have a child on the way, and we're trying to figure out what are we going to do. And this is one of the, this is one of the darker places where I went as an individual, simply because uh, abortion, that was never, I never would have gone that route, you know, that used that as a way out. But the girl that I was dating, you know, from a very astute family, uh, was just absolutely not an option. And so we ended up choosing to have an abortion. And that is, I think that's really where I started to kind of derail a little bit. You know, and kind of a side note, you know, being in the military, particularly in special operations, I get the question from, mainly from men, you know, what was it like, you know, to take the first human life? And I have always lied about how I felt about taking the first human life, because what I didn't tell them was the first life that I chose to take was an unborn child's life. And so that was pretty, that was that was pretty tough. And the girl that I was dating, we ended up sticking it out, you know, for about a year and a half longer, but it always ended up being a really heavy topic.
And you guys never told anybody. You
Never
you
told
suffered through
anyone.
this
Yeah.
hard thing
Yeah.
alone without getting comfort. Like your family could have comforted you,
Yeah.
but and I get it. In the time period, most
Hmm.
people kept those quiet.
Yeah.
So it makes
Yeah.
sense why you did that. But my heart goes out to you and
Yeah.
your girlfriend,
Yeah.
because that's really hard to just
Hmm.
do that all alone without talking or
Yeah.
getting love and comfort.
That was tough. That was really tough. And I would say that that kind of sparked the more of the moral derailing,
Hmm.
I guess, for lack of a better word. But yeah, that really stuck with me. And even though I was, you know, my into my junior year, where I was having even more success, you know, maybe a medium fish in a big pond, and then finally when I got to my senior year, you know, where I had the best academic, best athletic year of my life, you know, I got all A's and B's, you know, for the entire year, my senior. I've never done that, you know, and I finally chose to do that, you know, at Indiana University,
Well, you figured
and
it out.
figured it out.
Yeah,
Had
good
tons of
job.
people helping me, and then you know, athletically, you know, placing second in the Big Ten track and field meet in the decathlon, runner up to a future silver medalist 3 years later in
Wow.
decathlon, Paul Terrick, great friend of mine. So being able to stand on that podium, you know, and accept that award from my father, you know, uh, people got just a sliver of a glimpse of everything that went into me standing on that podium at that time, you know. And you know, people might think, hey, you know, wow, you know, you were able to do that, accomplish a dream, you should feel good about yourself. When in actuality what had happened was, you know, I wasn't accomplishing these things for me. I was doing it for the acceptance of other people, to prove to other people of, you know, of my value, my worth here, you know, that conditional love thing,
Hmm.
you know, that I was so clouded by for such a long period of time. And that was, you know, that was great. but I still, I didn't make it to the NCAA track and field meet. They typically in a year they'll take the top 20 in each event to the NCAA track and field meet. Well, for whatever reason, they took the top 18 that year. Well, I was the 19th ranked
Wow.
decathlete in the country, so you know, so okay, I graduated. I did really well in track and field. Now what? Now, what am I going to do now? And
I think
yeah,
so many people today now of all different ages do what you were doing in college, where you
yeah,
set some goal, you want people to be proud of you, you want some blank people to be proud of you. And then if you can make it out of that and just be proud of yourself,
mm-hmm, yeah,
you're only compete against your former self
mm-hmm.
instead of competing against other people. If you can get to that place, it's really freeing.
It it is, and those words make really great commercials for brands like Nike and Adidas and things like, just do it. Yeah, there is so much behind, uh, just do it. If it was easy, everyone would do it. That's why there are so few um, quote unquote champions, when it comes to athletic events or ballet or musical concert. There can only be one best chair or one best basketball player, so it it's a lot easier said than done, especially, circling back, when people are doing it because that is what they want to do, they know who they are and why they're doing it. It's a healthy position to be in. But for someone like myself, and I don't think that I'm in the minority when it comes to this,
Mm-mm.
it is proving yourself to everyone else, your worth to everyone else. So it's tough. It was difficult for sure.
I got to this place just a couple years ago. I'm 44, where I don't care what other people think.
Mm,
I only care what I think, but I
mm-hmm.
hold myself to pretty high standards.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm too hard on myself. So I've
Yeah.
got to calm it down. But I'm driven to try to help make my community better. I
Yeah.
really want to help. I'm really worried about Indiana. Um, but just getting to that place where I don't care what other people think about me is very
Mm,
freeing.
yeah.
But I'm lucky because I don't have to work, so I don't have to be tied to a
Sure.
boss that is telling me what I can say and can't say. A lot of people
Sure.
are stuck with that, you
Sure.
know. So
Yeah.
I see that I'm really privileged in just the way that I get to live my life. And
Yeah.
you get to live
Yeah.
that life too. You get to be your own boss pretty much and do your own thing.
Mm,
People aren't controlling you now. But
yeah.
there are a lot of people listening that have work or whatever's going on in their life where they can't be, and
Yeah.
I see it, and I think you should fight for getting to be free. I think it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so after, where do we want to go from here? So you're doing well with grades.
Yeah.
Things are rough with your relationship.
Yeah. So that relationship ended up ending about 5 months before we were supposed to get married.
Wow. And
And
how long were you all together?
we had been together for about 3.5 years. So it was a long relationship. I would say it's
The
the
longest you had
longest,
had.
yeah, that I
Yeah.
had up to that point. And for the most part, it was generally a healthy relationship, I would say. But circling back to the choosing to not have the child, I think that really started to wear. I know it started to wear on us a lot because we were both so conflicting. She supported it 100%. I was beginning this downward spiral into depression because of it, and then so we broke up. But that was 2 months prior to the track season being over, so I had this focus. But then once that was over, and I have that time to just sit in it,
Oh,
then
yeah.
it became a real
You didn't have the
problem.
tools of
No,
talking to people, having
no,
friends, opening up. So you're just suffering in silence on your own and
no,
also trying to be the best athlete you possibly can be. That
yeah.
sounds hard.
It
I can
was it
understand
was
why.
really difficult. So yeah, I graduated. Well, now what? This is I'm on the bubble of waiting to see if someone drops out of the decathlon for another event, maybe to where I could go. There was just this back and forth of what was going to happen. And throw on top of that the depression, the not not being in a healthy place, you know, yeah, it got tough. It got dark pretty quick. So,
If
yeah.
anybody is watching this now and they were relating to your former self where you
Mm,
couldn't open up, you weren't asking for help, you're suffering with this loss of a child and this relationship that didn't work out,
hmm.
what advice would you give to them? Like, what would be the first step to them breaking this cycle of depression and getting help?
That's a really good question, and it's taken me a long time to get there, to figure that answer out. Uh, First of all, I think you need to understand that it is possible. It is possible to find help, and like we were just talking about, 99.99% of the time, it requires an individual to just swallow your pride and say it's okay that I need help with this. You know, you go to the gym to work out, right? You eat healthy food so that you're healthy. You drink water so that it cleanses your system. Well, why wouldn't we exercise the right things in order to have healthy brains, to have healthy mindsets? You know, so I just look at it as no different than that. You would ask a dietitian, hey, what do I need to eat in order to have a healthier system? Or, oh, hey, that guy looks like he, or gal looks like they really are successful in the gym or working out. Hey, what do you do? What can I emulate so that it's no different than
Just
with your
saying,
mental health.
just saying something is wrong with my brain. I'm not having healthy thoughts. I need help.
Or I would even say, not, because there's nothing wrong with depression.
No.
It happens. It's normal. Everyone goes through some form of depression. It happens, but being able to just ask and say, hey, I want to make this better. How can I correct this? You know, not, you're not wrong. You're not, it's not bad. You know, it doesn't turn bad until you willingly choose not to say, hey, can you help me better this?
So just literally take that first leap, like you're jumping out of a plane,
Mm-hmm.
and just say, I need help. Here's what's wrong. And then you just say what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And
This is what I'm feeling.
this
Can
is
you
how I'm
help me
feeling. Can
figure
you
this
help?
out? Yeah,
And that's the first step. And that's probably the hardest step
I would
because
say
you
so.
clung to it so tightly to
Mm-hmm.
not let anybody inside. You're
Mm-hmm.
so scared that people won't love you if they know that you're not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But we all are not perfect and we're all suffering and it's all hard. Life is hard. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So good job for
Mm-hmm.
breaking that down.
And
Okay.
it's okay that life is hard.
Yeah.
Life is not, there's this misnomer out there that we're supposed to have this easy, flawless life. And that's,
Life is hard, even for
that's not the
people with
case.
even for me
Yeah.
where financially I'm okay. Life is still hard every day.
Yeah.
Every day's hard.
Yeah.
um and then I think about the people that struggle financially. Their life is so much harder and it just gives me a lot of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really good tips, so thanks.
Yeah.
So you had depression, you
Yeah.
graduated, you had a downward spiral. Let's
Yeah.
talk about what happens after graduation.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
happens then?
So after graduation, uh, again, I was working for the university, uh, you know, assisting with their grounds and maintenance and things like that. And
Did you do that for money, for a
yeah,
scholarship? What
yeah,
would you,
they
they
were
paid you?
paying me to do that, and I was also assisting with the track team, working out, but also helping coach
Did
a
you
little
get a
bit.
scholarship to go
Hmm.
to
I
IU?
did. I ended up getting a ride for track and field, and which helped me out financially, you know, a great deal. So, um, so graduating after that, and I started to go into that depression. Uh, I started this serial dating thing because I was just looking for, well, will someone care about
You're
me? How
trying
do
to
I?
fill the void of
So yeah,
your depression, your loneliness, your lack of people just loving you for who you are. So you're trying to fill it with other things. I think we can all identify with that.
yeah. So yeah, I ended up meeting this girl on the first oh, what was it called? Match.com, something. I One of the first ones. I had no idea what I was doing. So, but she was from Evansville, so I ended up dating this girl for a while, and then I thought, well, maybe if I just moved to Evansville and we're doing well and I can still train down there. I was like, I can fix it. And it just, it was just this circling of the drain, and and 9/11 had already happened. So, and I was back and forth about, well, should I join the military? Is that, that's an option? What am I going to do? And
So you felt pretty
yeah,
lost at this
I
time.
was lost. Yeah. And I got my first credit card. I don't know if all of you remember your first credit card, but if you used it the way I did, I'm sure you remember it. So, uh, just, just like, what am I doing? What's happening here? Kind of thing. So, I was struggling with my faith a lot during that time. The girl that I was dating was absolutely not. I She was not a believer in God whatsoever, and so there was always that back and forth. And like I said, it just things were getting dark. I was still feeling the depression because of the choices made in college, and yeah, it was a struggle. I was struggling pretty hard.
It sounds hard. My heart goes out to you because I can feel the loneliness, the internal struggle that you're putting yourself
Mm.
through when you had family that just loved you, but you didn't know
Yeah,
how to accept it.
yeah,
I don't think you fully knew how
no,
to just accept their love. You were
mm-mm.
thinking it's conditional. You better act a certain way, right, to get it.
And I think had I been in Indiana, had I been here in Corydon, surrounded by my family, I think that I would have maybe done better, but because
Right.
there was so much distance, I began to have this feeling of, I here I am, this awful person who has done these awful things, and I don't deserve to go back and be part of that. So that distance was a buffer for me
Yeah.
to not have to deal with the fact of I'm not worth
That's what I
that.
wanted to touch on a minute. I can feel you not loving yourself. You're so
No,
upset at
no.
yourself that what happened with you and your girlfriend,
Hmm.
you're feeling like it just a monster inside.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that self-loathing, you had
Hmm.
in there, and that's probably why you didn't want to ask help because you probably didn't feel like you
No,
deserved it.
no. And I didn't want to say why I really needed the help. I didn't want to talk about that, or
Right.
I was very ashamed of that. I am still ashamed of that to this day. It's something that I think about, probably not on a daily basis as much anymore, but it's something that gets thought about. I just know I can process it in a healthy way now. So,
I think that it's so vulnerable and brave of you to talk about abortion because it's a very hot button topic.
mm-hmm,
You're a little bit more to the right and I'm a little bit more to the left, and we can meet in a place and discuss it.
mm-hmm,
I think it's really important that if you are, if you're having sex with your partner, you should go ahead and talk about it before you do that. What would happen if the woman got pregnant? In Indiana, in Kentucky, and in Ohio, and about 22 states in the country, you're not allowed to have abortion right now. You'd have to go to another state or get one illegally. So I'm just going to suggest if you can get pregnant, that you go ahead and have that conversation with people, with your partner, because we live in a sort of scary place in Indiana. Um, Also, I'm just going to share with you my thoughts as a woman, and maybe it helps you and
mm,
maybe it doesn't.
mm,
Because you told me about this a couple weeks ago, so I've
mm-hmm,
been thinking about it.
yeah,
Even though, if you want the baby, it's ultimately the woman's decision. So I would just suggest talk to your partner before and make sure you're on the same page, even if you're doubling up on birth control or whatever. And then also just always remember it's the woman's body. It's very dangerous having children. I've almost died a couple times.
mm,
Um, and also it impacts the woman more oftentimes than the man, because a lot of times the man could leave. And it makes life a lot harder on the woman to have a child, especially if you're young, if you haven't finished your college, or you haven't finished whatever education you need to get to. It stops you from having a good job, or it can, unless you have a really supportive family that can watch your child while you also go to school. So it's a really hot button issue that needs to be talked about. And the other thing is, just seeing things on the right a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The Right to Life group, that group that pumps
Mm-hmm.
out, that wants abortion to be illegal,
Mm-hmm.
they pump out a lot of fake information. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to tell you some of it, and maybe this helps you,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it doesn't. I got a Right to Life thing in the mail whenever I ran for state house. And then I realized most Republican candidates get this packet and they sign it and they mail it back in, and then Right to Life sponsors them. And that packet had about 15 what looked like facts that you had to agree to. Over half of them were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They were not right about when you get pregnant what happens. They're acting like the second the sperm enters the egg, it's a baby and there's a heartbeat and you can see that little baby.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, it's a clump of cells.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time. For several months, it's just a clump of cells. There's no baby.
Mm-hmm.
And you're imagining a tiny little baby in that belly. And I just want you to know at the very beginning, for several months, it's just a clump of cells. And the Right to Life people put fake propaganda to try to make it so abortion is illegal. I think abortion is really sad, and I think we should support every woman that gets pregnant, but we don't do that in our country. We don't support women that are poor that get pregnant. We don't support women that are poor that get raped. We don't support them. So it's the woman's choice. I wish that we lived in a different culture where we just immediately helped the women. If they were still in college, we would give them free childcare and we would support them in their education. I wish we would do those things. But I'm just letting you know, you probably think things about that pregnancy that aren't 100% accurate. And it's not until recently that we really learned what the life cycle of a pregnancy looked like.
So I think for me, it really boils down to responsibility. I'm pro be responsible,
Right, right,
pro
right.
responsibility. Um, I don't agree that it's all the woman's choice. I just don't agree with that because it takes two people to make it. So the responsibility, I believe, falls on both individuals. But here's what I really, because I think this is a great conversation, but and I think it deserves its own show. Uh, I anyone anyone who's ever been in that position, I think, and has to make that choice, I think that it's it's a choice that could have been avoided simply by having a conversation first. I think just being realistic, people aren't going to sit down in the culture that we live in today, where it is a instant gratification hookup culture. Um, Forget about the consequences, and it's just not pro. There's it's just not pro responsible. So what I learned from my situation was that I am responsible for every single one of my decisions, and I am I should be held accountable for all of my decisions. So I just really, um, it was an unfortunate situation for us, I think, and it really, looking at it now, I learned a lot, and it helped to get me to where I'm at right now. Um, yeah, so but you're right though. That is a very in-depth conversation.
It's such a hot button topic because we're talking about children.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud of you for going there and helping me understand the man's
Mm.
perspective. On my end, I've talked about I've almost died having children, and before we had recent medicine in the last few hundred years, about half the women died in childbirth. So,
Mm-hmm.
and people still die in childbirth, and now more people die in childbirth because of this new law that we have in a lot of red states. So it's a complex issue that I wish we talked about more openly and we dropped the anger and the hurt. I think I'm allowed to talk about it since I've had a miscarriage and then I had a triplet pregnancy where one of them didn't make it and I almost died. I think I'm allowed to talk about it um, and to express my views, but I can also do it in a way that's not name calling,
Mm-hmm.
not getting in
Yeah.
a fight. And it's okay if you think something differently than
Mm-hmm.
me because we're different people and we can still care about each other and be friends.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
if we did this more, I think that we would be in a better place in our government.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
so.
So next time we meet, we are going to be talking about you deciding to get into special forces. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, so that's it's wow, we're gonna kick off the portion of the military. Yeah, so we'll crawl inside that hole, and yeah, it's quite the journey. Yeah, it's really something.
I am really excited
Yeah,
about that because I'm reading that book. What's the book called? Chaos something?
Masters of
Masters of
Chaos.
Chaos.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And it's fascinating. So I'm going to ask, I think we should break it down into several episodes because I want to hear all of the interesting details of what happened to you.
yeah,
I can't wait. So
yeah.
next week, we're going to get into 9/11 and
9/11, post 9/11.
your
Yeah,
choice to try
yeah.
to try out for the Green Berets.
Yeah, it was just kind of a real quick kind of skim the top. It was a program where they had seen where it was going to turn into a special operations war, which ultimately we all know that it really kind of didn't. Uh, and so they started recruiting guys right off the street for the opportunity to possibly go to selection.
Yeah,
There's a pre-selection before there's a special forces
that's cool.
assessment and selection. You know, where only 30 of the 200 who actually were initially brought in actually got to go to selection, made it. So
Yeah, hearing your
yeah,
stories of how you were able to survive that and make the cut, I can't wait.
it's
So,
good.
thank you all for being with us on this journey. I really hope Brian opening up and us talking about this will help you all to open up in your own life, especially if you're struggling with anything. Um, and then
Hmm.
please share it with
Yes.
anybody that you think is struggling mentally or that they could use some nudging on being more open and vulnerable. Please share that with them. And thank you for subscribing to YouTube. Oh, yay, there's Charlie. Brian's sweet dog's been in here. He's so cute, huh,
Hi,
baby?
buddy.
And you're, oh, there
Oh,
you
Charlie.
go. You're so cute.
Oh,
And we're at Zimmerman Art Glass. And is this the gallery room? What do you call this?
yeah, yeah. This
It's
is where we have,
beautiful.
yeah.
And if
Yep.
you want to see Brian, he works here
Hmm.
typically what, Tuesday through Saturday?
Yeah, Tuesday through Saturday. Yeah, usually here 10 to 5.
So you can come
Yeah,
down and see this beautiful gallery. You can get some beautiful art glass.
yeah,
I just saw the most amazing doorstop ever.
yeah. That was pretty nice.
Those are cool. We'll do a show on that soon where we'll come here and like make some of the art. I can't wait to do that. So we'll do
Yeah,
that soon. And
yeah.
just thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing this with me.
Thank
I'm really
you.
proud of you.
Thanks for joining us, you guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Have a fantastic rest of your day and love you guys.
Don't forget to
Bye.
subscribe.
That's right. Subscribe on YouTube. Thanks, guys.